All right, well, Shabbat Shalom again, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom
to you guys. So, what had happened is we had started everything. We were only a minute behind schedule, which for us is remarkable. And then it all went down. So, we're back, but we're only able to do faces today. I don't know why. Which is sad because we had a lot of the notes and things I wanted to show you. But to start again, today is August 19th, of course, or the second day of the Jewish month of
Elul.
Elul, exactly.
Whoa, how'd you know that? You just brought that out of nowhere.
He's amazing. And so this is technically, there are several new years in the Jewish calendar. And this is the last month of the civil new year. So, which means that in 1 month we have the beginning of a new Jewish New Year. So even though it's 5783 right now, in a month it'll be 5784. Which means that the high holy days are almost among us, right?
Woo.
Yes, I said among us. So we have, of course, the 3 high holy days in order, which are what?
Rosh
Rosh
Hashanah,
Hashanah,
Feast of
Yom Kippur,
Kippur,
and Sukkot.
Sukkot, good. Rosh Hashanah, which is Yom Teruah, the day of loud noises, or the Feast of Trumpets, which is a terrible translation. And then the Day of Atonement, and then, of course, the Feast of Tabernacles. All of that occurring very quickly, one right after another. So it'll be a busy month. So that's nice. And that ushers us into autumn, and then to winter, and Hanukkah. So, goodbye to summer.
Yay!
You don't like summer?
Actually, it was kind of a weird summer. It's more like a spring. You know, it was very wet.
It was very wet,
A
right?
lot of hail and...
Yeah, very odd. Okay. So, sorry again about the technical difficulties, but we will move forward. Alright, so besides that being on the calendar, is there anything else coming up?
I don't think so, no.
Ooh.
School resumes on Monday, right? The kids are going back to college.
Yay.
They're very excited about that.
Yeah.
Yes. I get test results in a couple of weeks.
I know.
I know, that's nice. That'll be good. You know, moving forward. Excited? Terrified? Okay. There's a lot going on in the news, of course, which we cannot cover on this video because I hope to post it and have it not be removed from YouTube. Fortunately, X, formerly Twitter, does not remove videos, so I am still trying to figure out a way to put longer videos on X. I will keep you updated. Those are not censored like YouTube censors, so that's nice.
It'll always be Twitter in my home.
TwitX?
I remember a time years ago when it was called Twitter.
Years ago. Yes.
Man.
Okay, thank you. For sure. Meanwhile, this week we will conclude what we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks. Does anybody remember what we've been doing the past couple of weeks?
The end of the world.
The end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine.
Daddy, that was Chicken Little.
That song's been on last
a real
week.
thing, yeah.
It's a real song by some group. I don't know who did it.
I don't know.
Yeah. So last week we were discussing, well, back up. All of this started with discussions about the role of the Jewish temple in the last days. Do you remember that? And as we've seen, this is a pivotal structure, right? Where goes Jerusalem, there goes Israel. Where goes Israel, there goes the world. But what guides Jerusalem?
The Antichrist.
The temple.
No.
The temple, right? The temple is the heart of everything. The physical manifestation of God's reality here on earth. Now we know, and we proved from Scripture last week, that the temple has to be rebuilt, right? Benjamin brought up a good point. Do we know if this rebuilt temple is going to be the one that is prophesied to be abused in, I keep getting these calls from a strange number, they just won't stop. Do we know that the temple is the one going to be abused by the anti-Messiah, or the desolation, the abomination that causes desolation in 2 Thessalonians? Or is this just another temple in a long series of Jewish temples? And maybe this next one will be destroyed, and the one after that will be made. And I said that's a great question. We have to look at the signs in which it happens, right? Yeshua said in Matthew 24, what I say to you, I say to everyone, watch. Well, the question is, watch for what? And that's where we go today. Now, we started to broach this question last week, and we started to look at some of the things that we're to watch for. One of them is that the Jewish temple must be rebuilt. We know that. The second one is that there will be a great apostasy, right? Many people who are legitimately born again, love the Lord, they will allow their love to grow cold, and they will walk away from God, and they'll give up. They'll give up, which is a terrible idea. But Yeshua said that there would come first a great falling away. Do you remember that? Talk about that? Okay. And another sign to look for is the one from Daniel chapter 12, verse 4, where he says that knowledge and essentially a man's ability to move about the earth would increase dramatically. And that's where we ended last week. So let's pick it up there. So if you have your Bibles, join me please in Daniel chapter 12, verse 4. I'm so sorry we can't broadcast this. I honestly don't know what's going on. Our IT team, all of them, have been working diligently, and no one can figure it out. See, I thought that was funny, but I'm alone here. Okay. Our IT team consists of my son, who's very good with IT stuff, but he wasn't able to figure it out. Okay. Daniel chapter 12, verse 4. And who would like to read this verse, please?
I'll try to.
Okay.
Okay, well, go ahead, Hannah. Nice and loud and clear, please.
Okay. But you, Daniel, shut up the words. Okay, it's New King James.
That's fine.
It's okay.
Shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase.
Okay, so the angel's giving Daniel an injunction here, right? Daniel had heard some things. He wanted to write it down in his book. Through the angel, God said no. Right?
Now what
This
says
is
so?
Michael the archangel speaking to Daniel. If you look at verse 1 of chapter 12. And then he says, many will go to and fro, and knowledge will be multiplied, or knowledge will be increased. What does that mean?
A significant increase in availability of knowledge and transportation for everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting. So in the Hebrew, it doesn't say knowledge will be increased. It says, let's see if I can read it now. Vitirbe hada'at, which means knowledge will be multiplied.
So not just slightly increased, but like skyrocketed.
Exponential,
Yeah.
right? It'll be multiplied. Because when you multiply something, it increases exponentially. It doesn't just increase a little bit. So knowledge will be exponentially multiplied, and many will go to and fro. What does that mean?
Exponential increase in transportation as well.
Yeah, there's going to be a fantastic increase in man's ability to go back and forth over the earth from one place to another, isn't it? Oh, okay, yeah. All right. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is all happening right now and it's the end of the world and we should climb on a mountaintop and sell everything and wait for Jesus to come back. I'm not going to say that. But is the wrong word. And we do have to look at historic trends for the past 3 centuries, right? Has knowledge increased?
Significantly, yes.
Why?
Because of the
Physics,
internet.
science,
The scientific revolution.
yeah, medicine.
Enlightenment.
Yeah, so we've had the Enlightenment and the Counter-Enlightenment, right? We've had the Industrial Revolution. This isn't in order. There's been the Renaissance, right? Then we've had the Scientific Revolution. We've had Revolution in Medicine. And now we're in the middle of something called the Digital Revolution. What is that?
It began in the 70s. It's
Good.
It's where computing and information grow at a faster and faster rate.
Yeah, okay. So we're seeing not only an exponential increase in computer information, but also the way information is stored. In the olden days, back in your time and my time, we used to write things down and put it in books. Right? Books old. Now everything is stored digitally. Right? Everything is stored digitally. From DNA to history to even the old classics, everything is being digitized. I don't know about you, but I don't trust digital storage as much as I do a book.
No, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Books have lasted thousands of years. Scrolls, codexes, whatever. Digital, one electromagnetic sweep and it is gone. All that information.
Counter
So,
argument. Faraday cages.
yeah, which unfortunately they're not using everywhere.
That's true.
So, yeah.
You would think that they would build computers with like a mini Faraday cage in it,
I think Google does that, or like LG does. Like,
Yeah,
they do that.
so in the military too, it's called hardened. So they do have some computers and things that are hardened so that it will be protected from like an electromagnetic pulse. Unfortunately, it's very expensive to do, And the United States, at least as this country, will not spend hundreds of billions to do that for the whole network. So if something, God forbid, were to happen, we would lose everything. We'd go back 500 years overnight.
Well, we found that out when the Office of Personal Management got hacked. Remember? I mean, you would think
Which is a
of
different
anything.
thing, but yeah.
You know, like if anything, the government should protect is that of its military and DEA agents and stuff like that. So I mean, they get all that information is in China somewhere. So
Yes, that's true. So not only are we storing knowledge differently, but knowledge is increasing at an almost staggering rate. I graduated med school in 2020, 3 years ago. Since I graduated, things have been learned in medicine that we didn't even dream of. And they're being published in journals over and over, and online and digital articles, and it's almost impossible to keep up with it. So we actually have an app now that filters through new information to prioritize it for the reader.
that's nice.
No, it's nice, but you just can't keep up.
Much,
It's too
yeah.
much.
Have we found out how to regrow people's limbs yet?
Yes.
What?
We did that?
Yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
Now we haven't figured out how to do that on people that have amputations.
Oh.
But we can grow an arm or leg in the lab.
No, I meant like
I still,
crabs.
Oh no.
that's still pretty hardcore.
That is pretty hardcore.
If crabs can do it, we can do it.
Indeed.
Wasn't that what
Ew.
Dr.
Crab
Drew
lab.
was doing?
Crab lab.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that?
The
Yeah.
crab lab.
Oh,
You know,
man.
he's Corey
I still want to
I
get
don't know. They retired him.
close
so.
to a crab.
Oh.
What
They
is
could
that
pinch
called?
you.
Well, all his research was recorded and digitized. So now someone could find it and go from there. Okay.
You said they retired,
Yeah.
so it wasn't his
Get
choice?
close to one.
I don't know that it was his choice.
Which means you know he got close.
I don't think he retired on his own. We're talking about a professor that I had in undergrad. Amazing man, brilliant, doing some incredible research. And I worked in his lab for a summer, and it was fantastic stuff. But I don't think it was of his own volition, because he had everything set up to go a long time
Right.
into his research, and he loved teaching. But they retired him, so super nice guy. Doc, if you're watching, miss you. Okay.
We'll get you some crabs.
Yeah. I remember taking care of his crabs and cleaning the water and feeding them. Regardless, we're back. So knowledge is increasing exponentially. Is this a period of time about which God was speaking in Daniel 12? I don't know.
I think an ignorant person would say yes. I think an educated person would say no.
Okay.
Because-
Well, maybe an education person would say, I don't know.
Well, yeah,
Because it might be or it might not be.
but I'm like, because if there was a nuclear winter right now, again, we'd be sent back.
It would wipe everything out. Yeah, we'd lose all that. Like the burning of the Library of Alexandria,
Yeah, exactly.
but on a global scale.
That would set us back. We
That would set us back.
wouldn't be the.
I think God has proven himself to do trial runs.
Does God need a trial run?
Not for him, but for us. I mean, get us to a point of where we're always thinking, like people I thought in World War II probably thought this has to be the end of the world.
Is that in
They're killing
Scripture?
Jews. They're
Trial runs and stuff.
not trial run as in
But like imitations of what's gonna happen by God.
like a foreshadowing, like like building up the society to which we think this has got to be it.
Well,
and
Hitler
then,
was certainly an Antichrist type-esque personality.
right.
But the temple hadn't been rebuilt yet.
No, but most people tend to the people that panic or start these cults and stuff.
Yeah.
They don't really follow truth.
That's true.
They kind of oh, it's the end of the world, and I don't know what they base it on, but they just take little bits of scripture and make it into this 2,000 reasons why Jesus is coming back today, or 2001 reasons why the same guy.
Yeah.
But
88 Reasons Why Christ is Returning in 1988.
Right.
Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
so
Yeah.
I think that God has given us kind of these moments in time where it's is this? Could this be? To where people actually have to go back to the scriptures and say, oh.
But it can be proven
No,
that God
because this
given
doesn't
scripture.
happen. Now, if you're really
So-
seeking scripture, you'll understand. Temple has to be built, great falling away. There has to be man of perdition.
Right, more things that we'll talk about today.
Right.
So that's why Yeshua said, watch, right? And he was very clear in Matthew 24 and Luke 21, same passage, or same event there recorded in both Gospels, that many will say, I am Christ, or here he is, or he's over there.
Right.
Do not believe them. For as the lightning flashes from one end of the heavens, even unto the other, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Right? And that's another thing we need to look for. But we'll get to that in a moment. Has transportation increased?
Considerably.
Yeah.
We got planes now.
We got planes,
We got
more ships,
planes.
we got space.
Oh, we've had ships for thousands of years.
Yeah, but now we're getting
Faster
space
ships.
travel.
Yeah, but we're going up to in the heavens.
We got
We're
cars.
not,
No. They're bringing back the Concorde. Did I tell you guys that?
Yeah.
It's a faster than sound passenger jet.
Faster than sound pass.
Faster than sound, yeah.
What happened to it?
So it was a big company that I think out of France that ran for many years, and then they had one plane crash in a terrible accident, and everyone was lost. So the whole company shut down. Now they're bringing them back. Some of them, supposedly, according to this article, will go Mach 2,
Dang.
1,500 miles an hour.
No, thank you.
That's,
Why would
yeah.
It
Well,
was-
at least if you die, you won't know it.
I mean, we're talking New York to London in like 2 hours.
No, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
that's
take a ship.
incredible. Let's take a ship.
At
Ships
least
can
we're
take up
closer
to-
to ground that way.
Ships can take
You can
No,
weekends.
actually, no, you're not.
Ship can take like
On a
almost a
ship?
week.
Yeah, you're
Compared to a
probably
plane?
as close to the ground on the plane as you're a ship, because you guys are all right up between you.
No, I
Wow.
meant like the water, where I could get
No,
in the
these are
water.
Water's not safe, Mom.
Life vest.
You're more
and
likely to
float.
die on a ship than a plane. That's why they have morgues.
That's more
on ships.
likely, yeah.
That's true.
They don't have morgues on planes.
Yeah, but I'm not going 200,000 miles an hour either. So
If something happens at that speed, you won't even know you're dead.
Yeah, exactly. If that thing crashes,
if I
Exactly.
see Jesus face, I pretty much will have a clue.
He's coming down the
Whoa.
aisle and said, "Wait, Lord."
Is this London?
a Stephen King thing.
Yeah.
Like,
London's
Yeah.
a paradise.
they all died on the one way.
Why are you on this plane? And he would say, "Because you're not." Oh.
No wonder Troy wanted to go to England.
Hey, well,
This looks just like heaven.
it's gorgeous. Who knew England is heaven? Yes.
Well,
So go ahead, Hannah.
it sounds nice, but I'm not sure if they're nice over there.
In the United Kingdom, I've been there. It's an amazing place. Now, it's not perfect. No place is perfect, but it's not a bad country.
Just like everywhere else. You got nice people, mean people.
Just don't go to London.
And if you're watching, Denise, say hello. Shalom. So transportation has increased, hasn't it? 100 years ago, what would be the fastest way I could get somewhere?
Probably horse
100
carriage.
years ago,
great-
probably ship
Or probably
train.
old,
I
okay,
would say
car.
the
Train.
plane.
I'd probably argue train.
Train.
1923,
Oh, then train.
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 Train, yeah.
Right.
Train
Yeah.
or small plane. 23, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they had planes in World War One, right? And in the 20s, they were trying to create this passenger thing going on. How about 1823? Let's go back 200 years.
Like,
Blitz.
trains.
The
You're good.
fastest
God
way.
given
Did
feet.
they have trains?
I say the plane.
I
Horse
don't know
and
when
buggy.
trains were invented now. This is
Probably horse
No.
carriage.
Probably donkey.
Okay,
or
so there were no
mule.
planes in 1823, Hannah.
Probably
Hey,
horse
take
We
carriage.
it
had
back.
animals, right? Horses and mules and things of that nature. Did we have trains in 1823?
We did.
No.
I would
Yeah.
say
1823,
Oh, we
yeah.
did?
Yeah, we did.
I guess the
When
train
was the first
again.
train?
Bennyman's looking it up.
1804.
1804, nice.
1804. So
1804. Wow.
trains revolutionized certainly the United States and later the world, of course, really speeding transportation. That's only 200 years ago, out of a 8,000-ish recorded history of mankind. How about 300 years ago? We're back in 1723 now.
Or like horse
What's the
carriage,
fastest way to
yeah.
get around?
Horse.
Bicycle.
Walk.
Walk. Horse.
Horse,
and
I
buggy.
think
Horse
yeah.
carriage.
Horse.
What do they
Horses go
call it
faster
in
than
the
bicycles.
A
Dorian
cow.
Gray book?
I guess horses.
A hansom?
Handsome.
Yes, gotta
I
get the
love
hansom.
horses.
We're reading the picture of Dorian Gray right now as a family. And it's,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, how about 1623?
Still probably
God
animals.
It's
given
horse up
feet.
until the ancient Egypt put carriages on
Yeah,
horses.
so we had chariots, but everything was animal moved, right? So we had for a long time, for thousands of years, animals. Then bam, everything increased all of a sudden.
But
All of a
also-
sudden we had trains. Then we had ships. I mean mechanical ships, steamships. Then we had airplanes. Then we had rocket ships, right? It all happened in a very narrow period of time. 300 years and everything changed.
But also included in that, we also have a population growth as well, because, like I would say in ancient Egypt, they didn't go, if they imported anything, it was usually done by ships or cargo of somehow. But most people didn't go from like we would go from here to Florida. People didn't do that.
Well, they didn't do that because they couldn't do that.
And most families stayed.
That's because the transportation didn't exist.
Right, exactly. But once the population blew up and people had to go outside the city to live.
I think it's more than just population, though. It's the ability to get those people out of the city. The whole idea of the suburb is based on modern transportation. You could not have suburbs without cars, where people live outside the city or on the edge of it, then you drive to work every day. In the olden days, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, you had to live within walking or riding distance of your work. So a few miles at most. And then transportation allowed something called urban sprawl. What's urban sprawl?
Growth of cities. And
cities just exploding in size, right? For thousands of years, cities were small, small, small because of population and because transportation just wasn't that good. As soon as transportation increased, population increased, also things due to medicine, right? Health and people surviving longer. Transportation allowed us to commute 50 miles one way or 60 miles one way to work every day. Something that would be impossible even 200 years ago, sir.
And to just put in perspective the rate of how fast things have been going, do you know anyone who remembers Dwight D. Eisenhower as president?
You used to, but they're all dead now. I mean, because my grandparents told me about President Hoover. That was way before Eisenhower.
Because to put that in perspective, when Dwight D. Eisenhower was a kid, Harriet Tubman was still alive.
Oh my gosh.
She died in 1912.
Oh, that's extraordinary.
He was born in 1890.
Oh my gosh. Really? So everything has suddenly happened all at once. And by all at once, I mean within 200 years. We've had this massive explosion in population, in medicine, in ability to move people around, in science, in knowledge, in technology. But is this what Daniel was talking about? Or is this just one of maybe many possible blips where finally we get to Daniel's prophecy in 1,000 years? Thoughts?
I'd imagine it'd have to be something comparable to nothing like it before. So I think it's
we've never really had. Well, maybe before the flood, antediluvian, but
I think it's a bit too soon to say.
Well,
What do you think?
oh, Mom was about to say something.
I think it's a matter of perspective, because to Daniel, what we have today is outstanding.
Oh yeah.
But to us, what we'll have 20 years from now would be amazing.
To Daniel, what they had in 1700s was outstanding.
Right. So,
1500s.
but of course, this is God giving him revelation. So,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, when I was a kid in the 80s, I never even thought we would be carrying around phones and little computers in our hand. I never in a million years would I ever think that.
I know.
I mean, people had car phones, they were the rich people.
Yes.
Or it just came with the car or whatever.
8-track, that was the stuff right there.
I mean, I was blessed if I got a stereo. I mean, that was the thing.
Got a what?
A stereo. With a record player. A stereo.
Stereo. She's from the East Coast. We don't hold that.
Wait, Mom, pronounce it, please.
Stereo.
No, enunciate it.
Stereo.
It's stereo.
Like, you're saying stereo.
Stereo.
You're saying stereo.
It's stereo.
Not stereo.
Stereo.
It's not. It's stereo.
It's
Stereo.
It's S-T-E-O.
A turntable?
You don't seem to be
No,
saying
it
it right.
had everything. Radio, desk,
Yeah, stereo.
player,
A stereo set.
cassette player.
Yeah, that's a stereo set.
Stereo, yeah.
Yeah, stereo.
You're saying stereo.
They're not saying it right.
Are you messing with us?
Was it
Does that actually
RCA?
happen?
Oh,
Magnavox?
No, I don't know what it was.
If I text Randy and ask if that's always how you pronounced it.
I bet he'll say
I bet he'll say the
I
same
bet he'll say
thing.
stereo, yeah.
Stereo.
You're saying stereo.
It's stereo.
My lovely wife.
I've never heard you say that word
It's
before.
from Washington, D.C.
All right, all you East Coasters, come on, back me up here.
I am from Colorado where we speak normal English. And we say stereo.
If it
So
wasn't for us on the East Coast, there wouldn't be New Colorado.
touche.
Oregon Trail.
Yeah. Malay. Okay.
Okay, after this is done, we're going to Google the pronunciation.
We should.
We'll say stereo.
Okay.
We shouldn't have
So,
to.
getting back to the question,
They
at hand, excuse
should
me.
have.
What we've seen is absolutely what Daniel was talking about. Now, whether or not this is a blip, and maybe we'll lose everything, and maybe it'll come back later stronger and better, I don't
I
know.
was about to say, I thought you were starting some end of the world
But
panic.
we certainly, what he said could be applied to this time. But is it the actual time? That's why we have to look for more things. So, what else should we be looking for?
Temple.
According to Scripture.
Temple.
Well, we talked about the temple.
Great
We talked about a
apostasy.
great falling away.
Something about
Don't get me
Noah.
started about the Western
I
Church
think
right now.
Paul said where Eve. What?
Something about Noah.
What about Noah?
The
days of Noah.
As a
Yeah,
day,
as in the days of
oh.
Noah.
The flood?
He said
What
that
does
there
that
would be
mean?
greater tribulation as in never before
Like the peoples of days of Noah.
from the days of Noah.
Okay.
Or something like that. I'm
So-
quoting it wrong.
So let's look that up, right? Where is that?
Look it up now.
Yeshua talks about the days of
You
Noah.
wrote it down. You have it in your
I
notes.
did not write
I
it
think
down.
it's in
Roughly 24.
Oh,
Matthew.
that's so cool.
What are you doing?
That's I'm trying to use my iPad, but you guys can't see, but I'm so sorry about that. Okay, so what does Yeshua say about the days of Noah?
Matthew 24.
The sign of the
Matthew
end
24
of
where?
time.
47.
47?
37.
37? Matthew 24, 37. So if you have your Bibles, please join us. Matthew 24, 37. All right, and I'm getting there now. And Joshua, would you read 37, 38, 39, please?
And as the days of Noah, so be also the presence of the Son of Man. For as they were in the days before the flood, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, till the day Noah entered into the ark. We did not know till the flood came and took all away. So shall also be the presence of the Son of Man.
Okay, so the word for presence there is parousia, which is an amazing Greek word. It means to accompany, right? Or if you have a parousia, it's someone who's walking alongside you. So as will be the days also of when the Son of Man is walking alongside or coming, right? The second coming. So, what does this mean, Joshua?
Like I assume men would be full of violence again, like we were in the days of Noah.
Can you prove that?
I mean, he doesn't say it. He doesn't really give us any clarification.
What was it like in the days of Noah?
Very violent and very populated.
Can you prove that?
It says it in Genesis
Where?
4 or 5,
6.
6.
Genesis 6. So Yeshua says in Matthew 24, as it was in the days of Noah, right? And then he's saying also, people were eating, drinking, married. They were going about their normal lives, right? Even though it was the days of Noah. Even up to the very time Noah and his family entered the ark. And then everyone was swept away. Terrible, terrible time. But a demonstration, necessary, obviously, a demonstration of God's holiness.
What are we looking for? Like if it was really super populated?
Genesis 6:11.
We're trying to see what it was like in the days of Noah. So we're in Genesis chapter 6. So follow along if you have your Bibles. Genesis chapter 6, and you say verse 11. Okay, and we're there. What does it say, Joshua?
If the earth is corrupt before God, and the earth is filled with violence.
Okay. And the next verse?
And God has seen the earth, and behold, it has been corrupted, for all flesh has corrupted its ways of the earth.
What does the word corrupted there mean? What's the Hebrew word?
Sachat,
Okay, sachat, which means what?
to destroy, corrupt, or ruin.
Pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at, it says that all the earth, right? The earth was filled with Hamas in Hebrew. Violence. What is violence? I'm not trying to be stupid here, but let's clarify.
Malintention against another human.
So if I wave my hand at you angrily, I'm being violent?
Yes.
Usually with physical
I would
harm
say
and injury.
Okay, so what does it mean? Let's look it up.
people robbing each other or attacking each other or killing each other or, you know, raping each other, you know, things like that.
Okay. Well, as we said, the word here is Hamas in Hebrew. In Hamas in Hebrew, and we're looking at the Cassinius, and again, I'm so sorry, I wish you could see this, means to be oppressive, violent, or wrong. Did you find that, Adam?
I did, but if you're doing the Hebrew, it's way old also.
Oh yeah, okay. So it's to do wrong to other people, right? Or to oppress them.
So great oppression.
Great oppression. So the earth was filled during the times of Noah with great oppression. People were oppressing each other, hurting, raping, all those terrible things, right? It was all over the entire earth. It says all flesh had been corrupted, ruined by this. What happened that the earth was filled with violence?
Blood. I mean, like, what happened to cause the
Yeah, what happened to cause this
I
violence?
guess shit. Adam and Eve falling, I guess.
The fall, absolutely. Sin. Sin is like a virus, right? You think COVID went around the earth fast because of our transportation? There's another point, by the way. If transportation were not so good, disease wouldn't spread so quickly.
I
So,
hate. This is like hearing about COVID still. So
I know. New strains coming out every day.
Yesterday is going to get demanded.
Thank you. Is sin like a virus?
No.
Yes,
Not
it does.
really.
It spreads.
I don't think sin attaches itself to cells and injects itself into.
No,
Ben, it's metaphorical.
It's metaphorical.
Well, I think that it, like,
You of all people.
I mean, look at Adam and Eve. All right, starting at Adam and Eve, we'll look at Cain and Abel.
Okay.
You know, who, like, if Adam and Eve had learned their lesson from the fall, then where did Cain, was it Cain? Yeah, Cain learned to kill.
I don't
You
think
know, it wasn't like, Adam was just sitting there saying, this is how you murder someone.
So I
You
would
know, so-
answer your question with a question. We have 4 amazing kids whom we love very much.
Right.
Where did they learn to lie? Who taught them to lie? Yes, it's like, I learned it from watching you. No.
It was part of their natural
Yeah.
being, and so I don't think, first of all, I don't think you have to teach anyone to do evil.
Correct.
We're automatic. I mean, little kids that go in the store, I know when I was little and I'd see a toy I wanted. I mean, it was just, you pick it up and you just think, hey, Mom will buy this for me, but then you forget about it or put it in your pocket or whatever. It's just a natural thing.
See, you're so nice. When I was young, I did it on purpose.
Oh, really?
I would
I
literally
never
steal things.
Mom, why would you take a toy, put it in your pocket, out, pay
You
for
would
it later?
steal.
I was a
No,
horrible
I
child.
would, I never
You
did
weren't
that. I mean, I'm just saying,
Before I was born
in-
again, I was a terrible person.
in
Did you
our
steal
day,
toys with your
Well, you should never
stereo?
do that.
Agreed.
stereo.
The choice
Um,
with
Back in our day, they used to have, well, I guess they do now at Kroger's, they have a toy section. And while our parents shopped, mostly our moms, we would go off and look at the toy section and then, but, I mean, I stole once and got caught, so I never did it again. But,
Smart.
well, it was embarrassing. And then, but naturally, I mean, my mom didn't teach me that.
We didn't have to teach our kids to lie.
Yeah.
We didn't have to teach them to be selfish or cruel.
Right.
We didn't have to teach them to threaten or hurt each other.
Right.
We had to teach them not to do these things because it's ingrained within us. Because sin is like a virus; it spreads.
But if it makes you feel better, we've never stolen anything.
Oh well, I'm not trying to make you guys feel bad. It's just you're humans,
Yeah.
right? And I was much worse child than you guys, any of you ever were when I was young. So
Well, that's like when they were little. We made a pact, to our, ourselves that we would never, show them guns or anything with guns in it.
I remember
We were
that.
very selective on what you watched, so we knew
Yeah.
that. But then one day, Joseph and Ben were playing, and they used their, they
made
just
guns out of their
made
fingers.
out of their fingers. And I'm thinking, and I remember talking to you about it. I was like, can you believe that? How do they do that? They naturally,
Well,
We
Americans
live in
got shot.
Philadelphia. Go out and see a couple.
No, this was.
We did live in Philadelphia. so-
We did, but this
Why
was.
don't keep us away from guns?
We didn't want
Because
violence.
guns and
No, I know,
vehicles
but-
make you violent.
Because certain things you grow into as you mature. You don't teach a 5-year-old
No,
how to hold a gun. And you guys were small at the time.
Did you listen to that, Palestinian people? Do not teach your 5-year-olds to hold guns, okay? So, I'm just saying.
Well,
The
okay,
Palestinian cashier was just like,
Unless it's-
what's that got to do with
It
anything?
sprays water.
but
They
that's
actually do that.
that's the thing. No matter where we were, we
That's
try to keep you, shield you from certain things, so that you're not growing up with this violent tendency. But Cain did not grow up like that, and yet
Correct.
Cain knew how to murder his brother.
So,
The
we're
problem was
looking...
television.
Cain didn't have TV or video games. So,
He's still modeled.
and he still murdered his brother. Yeah, look at that. Because men are evil. People are evil. We are all evil. That's why we need Yeshua. That's why we need Jesus. Without him, we will remain selfish and evil. And even if we're the nicest person in the world, our motivation is still inherently selfish without the Lord.
Right.
What was it like in the days of Noah? We had extraordinary global violence. We had global corruption. What was the population?
Probably very high.
Okay.
Probably bigger than it was
Not-
with Adam and
We have no
Eve.
body.
So obviously we weren't there in as much as no one was ticking population and the record survived, right? Because the flood was incredibly devastating. But we do have an estimate, a way to estimate. Now, Dr. Lambert Dolphin has a website called ldolphin.org, and yes, that's his real name.
Dolphin.
Dolphin. His logo is a dolphin,
Oh.
which is cool. And he's been posting articles for decades about certain things. He is a Christian, but his articles are based, as far as I've ascertained and read, the medium I've read, in good, sound reasoning and science. So he has an article entitled World of Population Since Creation. And he uses the general formula that is used today to calculate world population. You can go on the internet, find a website that's calculating the approximate world population. We're over 8 billion now. How do we know? Because of this formula. Wait, does it? So on this formula, and going back, he applied what we see in the book of Genesis, how long people lived, and estimated very conservatively how many children each couple would have, and then used a period of time between creation and the flood of Noah to guesstimate what the population of the earth would have been before the flood. He arrives conservatively at about 9 billion.
Wow.
But that's
Yeah.
a flawed system because he's looking at a pre-scientific revolution view of like he's saying before the revolution there was a steady flow of human population.
No, he takes into account things like disease, death rates, birth rates. He uses the formula properly.
Except it goes, it's a line, it's a steady line.
It's not a steady line. That's called an exponential increase.
No, I'm talking about this.
That's a curve. Well, this we know.
He's about recorded history.
So in recorded history, we know this to be true.
Yeah, but there are things that we don't know. Like if like,
So we do know what the population of the world was during the time of ancient Rome. And we know what the population of the world was during the time of ancient Samaria.
true, but there's a time where there was a point where we just lose all information.
Yeah, that's the flood. Bam.
Yeah, but how do we know before the flood followed this?
Again, he's using the same formula that's used today to determine world population. How do we know there are 8 billion people on Earth? Did we go around and actually count all 8 billion people? Yes.
We
No.
estimate.
Did someone come by the house and put a sticky on your forehead and say, you've been counted?
Yes, but like,
No, they didn't.
but like,
How do we know world population today?
The census.
We estimate.
Census.
We estimate.
Bureau.
yes, but
Based
there's no
on-
information past this. How are we
Wait,
supposed to?
just-
It's just an estimate, Ben.
We assumed that the rate was the same.
No, he doesn't. Based on this formula. That's how we calculate world population today.
It doesn't make sense.
That's how they do it. So do we know for sure there are 8 billion? No. We're guesstimating. So what Dr. Lambert did was apply this formula to the Bible.
Okay.
Starting out with 2 people, how long they lived, approximately guessing how many children they may have had, how long their children would have lived. That's how that formula is used today. Right? He gets conservatively
I don't know
9
where to
billion
find
people. I had to type it in specifically. Yeah, he's published a lot. So he gets conservatively that there would have been about 9 billion people on Earth at the time of Noah. So
We're not quite there yet.
we're not talking about tiny villages that were wiped out. We're talking about massive cities on a global scale. Now, this is made easier because there was only one landmass at the time, right? This we know. Again, I encourage you to look at the writings and the lectures of Dr. Kurt Weiss from Harvard, who is a Christian geologist and historian, and he has all sorts of extraordinary research to back this up. One landmass, Pangea, mankind lived there, and we spread. We filled the earth, which is what God commanded us to do. And the more we spread, the more we took the virus of sin. So that soon, as it says in Genesis 6, the whole earth was filled with violence and corruption. Now, this raises so many questions. What kind of God do we serve who would wipe 9 billion people off the earth within 40 days?
Probably one that didn't
Well,
want us to destroy
just-
ourselves.
It's just. I mean, the one like they didn't have some years
We had several.
to question and
100
wonder,
years,
and and they were all basically related at that particular
Well,
junction.
still we
because
are all related.
right, I know, but they knew. We don't know what line we all come from, but we do know they probably knew. Well, they came from Adam and Eve and Seth and Cain.
Yeah,
Maybe
they probably
Abel by the
knew and
time he
didn't
died.
care.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure if they're like any other family, all you have to do is tell Aunt Bertha. And Aunt Bertha tells everybody else.
It
And
tells us that they had hopes and copper rocks back then.
Yeah, it does.
So we know that they were at least as advanced as the medieval ages.
Like Bronze Age type
Yeah.
thing, yeah. So these weren't dumb people, right? They weren't dunderheads bumping into each other. These were intelligent, capable, gifted, talented people that were reveling in evil. Okay? As it was in the days of Noah. Big population, easy transportation, spread of wickedness, spread of violence. Right? Now, ever since people were reading the Bible, they would say, well, this reflects my society today. It must be the end of the world. Okay, I don't know why they had a southern accent. Nothing against southern people. We live in the South for years. But do we continue to see this trend? Or are we seeing an opposite trend where people are becoming more kind and tolerant? Is the diversity, equity, and tolerance movement a good thing where people are just loving each other more and there's less violence?
It can be.
It can be, but is it?
No.
No.
Depends on what?
Where, when, how
The
is
United
it?
States right now.
I don't know.
You don't know?
When people are
I mean,
getting,
I don't know
when people are
I
what
getting,
you mean, what you define as that.
when people are getting suspended and punished for very only two genders thought.
No, yeah,
But people are
that's
getting
bad.
praised for saying love is love, or
No, I get
they're
it.
more-
That's,
But you
that's
have-
extreme.
That's not
but
good.
Jesus
So
said,
what you're saying is the diversity, inclusion, and equity movement is not bringing unity.
Yeah.
It's bringing division.
but Jesus even prophesied that, and he was talking about the generations that would come after his resurrection, that there would be tribulation, and people will put you before judges and kings, and they will judge you and hate you for my name's sake.
Sure.
And that they would. So I can't believe that today that's any different than what he prophesied.
So
You
the
know,
question, and I understand that's true, but the question really is not is it like it was back then concerning people hating us for the sake of Yeshua's name, but are we seeing the days of Noah today? Or is this just a natural human way things happen?
Well, if it's the days of
No.
Noah, we've got 1 billion to go.
So it won't take us that long to reach that. I remember when the Earth's population was 4.5.
But
Then
what
we'll
we
find out.
have, what
We'll
we
find out if
have,
it's the days
Way
of
too
Noah.
long.
Yeah.
what we have now, also, I don't think we'll reach that population because what we have now is greater than what they had in Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean Noah's flood.
What do you mean?
Because yes, they were. It was enough for them to be wiped out, right? But we have surpassed Noah. We now, the population, I believe, is being controlled by abortion. And I think the population is being controlled by certain groups of people that are holding and keeping
Okay.
certain populations down.
Sure.
So we're worse than
Wait.
there ever
I just
was in
wanna
Noah.
pull-
Look at
I just want to roll back to
hold on.
something you said. You said that there were groups trying to hold certain populations back.
Yes.
Can I ask you to elaborate? on
Well, I'm not going to get
Here we go.
political. I'm not going
Way
to get
too late.
political, so I'm just going to say that there are certain ideologies and a certain group of people that, define themselves as something.
Is Bill Gates one of those people?
I don't know.
I'm being
You're
serious.
baiting now.
I'm not baiting. I want to know what she thinks.
Okay, so anyone that is, I don't really, I mean, this.
Yeah, let's have this conversation later. Okay.
But
so
what I'm
let's-
saying is that the things we're doing now surpass what was going on in
You can't prove that.
Noah. Well, I can because they didn't have abortion back then.
Maybe they did.
I doubt it.
Well, the idea of abortion has
Actually,
been around for thousands
yeah,
of
they
years.
did have abortions back
They
then.
were.
But not
Yeah,
as
yes, they
openly and not made law. Or not people that are celebrating the death of a child.
But we can't prove
You
that
know,
that
not-
wasn't a law pre-Noah. If there's an
There's nothing we
information
can prove pre-Noah.
then what? How can we make
all
a...
right, all right, wait,
And then
wait,
you
wait,
take
wait,
God
stop,
out of
stop.
everything.
Okay, no one's listening to me. Hello, hi. Let's have this conversation later. Let's put a pin in that and get back to the question at hand. We're talking about the days of Noah, right? According to the United Nations population projections, we will reach 9 billion people within the next 13 years. 2037. Right? I say 13 because 2023 is almost
Not bad.
You'd be old.
so we're estimated to reach 10 billion by the year 2050. Now this, of course, is predicated upon no massive global war, no massive global pandemic, wiping out hundreds of millions or potentially a billion people or more. So this is based on just the current growth cycle we see. And we know despite the wars, World War II was the worst conflict in recorded history, modern recorded history, that we've lost a lot of people. The Black Plague, the Justinian Plague, the 1918 Spanish flu, we lost a lot of people. Despite that, we've seen this explosive, exponential growth in population. Do we have to reach 9 billion in order for it to fulfill the prophecy of Yeshua saying, as it was in the days of Noah?
Yeah.
Not
I don't think
exclusively.
so.
Yeah.
Not really.
Because
It's
I
not
think
said.
that
Maybe.
If it's not said, we can't say yes or no.
Yeah,
well,
maybe.
no
Depends
reason why
what he
we
means on days of Noah. Does he mean population? Does he mean culture? Does he mean both? Does he mean...
Maybe it's everything, maybe it's just a few things. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and we'd have to have a definite number of people in it. You know, we're only estimating
Yeah.
what the population was. And even today, we don't even know if we have the right estimation of people today because,
It's based on math.
Yeah,
and a
it's all
guess.
based on-
So,
you know, probably the numbers from last year to, you know, number of births and all that, but you don't know. I mean, we really don't know. I mean, there are some, you know, indigenous people in the middle of who knows. There could be, you know,
Right, exactly.
you know, lots of people there. So it could be, you know. I think that he's talking more like the evilness, the lawlessness,
The corruption.
the taking God out of it and making man more important, or idolatry.
Yeah.
You know, the things that God warned us about when Moses came about. Obviously were things that were happening in Noah's day and happening up until Moses. So God wrote laws about those things.
So it's interesting because before the flood of Noah, all of mankind lived on one landmass.
Yeah.
Ideas could be shared more easily, right? There weren't massive seas separating us. It's also interesting to note that after the flood, God literally, physically put us in our corners. Right? Stop it. You go over there, you go over there. Type thing. And even though, yes, the ark landed on the mountains of Ararat, which are probably in modern-day Iran, not in Turkey, and then we went to the plain of Shinar, and we built Babylon, he continued to do things to separate mankind so we wouldn't wipe each other out. And so that sin and violence wouldn't spread quite as quickly. Now fast forward 6,000 years. We have the most accelerated, capable form of communication in human history. What is that?
The internet.
The internet. We can instantly translate one language from another, and one evil idea. Let's say someone goes to the internet and says chocolate is bad. That's an evil idea.
It is.
Chocolate's good. And this idea was suddenly spread instantly to every corner of the globe. There are efforts by the United Nations and other organizations to get solar-powered computers to people in the remotest areas of Asia and Africa so they would have the internet. Now, these people are starving,
I don't think we
but
need
you
to-
gotta get on the internet.
I don't think it's the biggest priority in most parts of the world.
And I don't think it should be, but these efforts are going on. You should see these computers are like rugged things. You can drop them, and they're waterproof and things.
Well, but that create jobs, so I wonder, you know, and education.
Correct.
So there
That's
are,
what they're thinking.
you know, there are some positives to that. I mean, it may not bring in like clean water, but if you educate them, then they'll go out of where they're at.
So what we're seeing
Yes.
essentially is a reversal of what happened at the Tower of Babel, right? Suddenly, language is no longer, and culture, no longer really a thing. Now, we've had the internet for, it's been around since, like, I think, what, the 60s, 50s? For the military and universities, but globally, we've had the internet for about 25 years-ish? Say it was mid-90s? Remember, you introduced me to it.
Well, we had like computer processing in school, so
No,
that
I
was
mean-
in the 80s.
I mean internet. where you could sit down and look up an idea from the other side of the world.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so about 35
late,
years.
very late 80s, 90s.
Here's a question. Since that time, has Earth gotten better? Has mankind gotten better morally or worse?
I'd have to say more.
I say worse.
Okay. I remember when I was growing up, and I'm not trying to be grotesque here, my stepdad would have special magazines hidden away in the basement where nobody could find them, except two very curious boys. Today, you can just click literally instantly and get all the filth you would ever want, hope, or desire, and educate yourself instantly on the worst aspects of humanity, right? Not just pornography, but violence, right? Murder, death, torture, all these horrors. It's just literally a click or finger touch away. It's never been like that before. Has this accessibility improved us as a species or harmed us?
In many ways, harmed us.
How so?
Because most of the internet's pretty garbage.
Okay. Yeah, what was the estimate? Like 45% is porn? Or
No, it was like
that?
60 or 70, yeah.
60%. So God allows us to develop the greatest vehicle of human communication in history, and we dedicate more than half of it to pornography.
There are some good things.
But you,
There are some
Like
good
you
things
have
about the
basically all the information of the world at your fingertips.
but you
A lot of
think,
it.
think about it. I mean, you know, I see this on the internet all the time, and it's actually pretty funny. But I know that they're trying to make, you know, a delineation between the generations. But in reality, if we look at it, it falls right in. Like when we were kids, we didn't have internet. So we went outside, we talked to friends, we got in fights, we rode our bikes, you know, we went up to the store. We were, you know, I'm
always knew to come home when the street
when
lights
those
came on.
street lights
Yeah,
come on,
exactly.
or your parents yelled at you, or whatever signal your parents would give you, and then, you know, you had your neighborhood friends, you had your school friends. Sometimes they intermingled. You know, you know, walk places, took the bus. You know, there was that communication. We learned to talk to people. You know, we learned to ignore them when we didn't want to talk to them. But now it's like you go to any restaurant or any event, and this is what you get. You know, and this is what you get, and you don't.
Well, they have TVs on the wall. So you're
Right.
staring at that.
So there's no disconnect.
There's no disconnect.
There's
There's all disconnect.
There's no disconnect between
Of the device.
the device and you, so that you can connect with another human being.
Yeah.
So they're taking away personal connection. They're taking away the way people communicate. Because look at the language thing now. It's LOL. You know, all these little things.
Not to even talk about things like cop, bus,
Exactly, and so the language-
is like that.
The language is also changing. And then not only that, but you have access to someone's life 24/7.
Yeah.
People, what they ate, where they went. Security is being, they're saying, you know, if you ever go on vacation, post your pictures after you come back. Because if you post them while you're there, people go online and know that you're not at home. They'll steal your stuff. You know, security is being breached.
There is no security.
I mean, and then look at, you know, face recognition, you know, like they were saying when COVID happened and they had the masks on, and banks would use cameras to identify. And now with the masks and all that, or before, they're like, we can't identify anybody. So they're taking away our identity by making us all clump into these subscriptions and these, you know, Facebook groups and this whatever, and it's making people depressed, and then it's, you know,
Yeah.
it's just
So the
it's all
internet-
horrible.
Internet has changed our lives, absolutely. And it'll never be the same. It'll never be like it was before. Now again, if there's a massive disaster and we lose all electronic stuff again, right, for whatever reason, then that'll put us back a couple centuries. Well, we survived then, we can survive now. But the point is, where we are right now, mankind has changed. Can I use the internet to spread violence?
Yes.
Corruption?
Yes.
As it was in the days of Noah?
Yes.
Where the whole earth was filled with violence?
Sure.
Yes.
Think about it. All right.
But are you saying that when it is?
No, I'm just saying these are things we need to look for. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the temple
We need to
hasn't,
be wise, right?
What he said before
yeah,
is
yeah.
not just one thing.
No,
you
no,
know?
but I'm talking about the days of Noah specifically. That's not it.
So I'm just saying, Yeshua's right. Of course, he's always right. He's God. All right.
But to the believer, it doesn't matter because we're supposed to be ready in season and out of season, and we're supposed to.
He commanded that we watch.
No,
So it should
I
matter.
didn't finish.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, we need to be ready no matter what happens, and that means that when we see that the season is closing in, we should still be doing what we're supposed to be doing, preaching the gospel, getting people to understand that they need God, and bring people into the kingdom. Shouldn't change for us, but it should make the non-believers very scared, I think.
Well, unfortunately, the non-believers don't care.
No.
Right.
Well, they don't know what to look out for. And then these crazy loons, they're like, the end of the world, and it makes people scared, and they get this religious
Foolishness.
fervor that it's just religion. It has nothing to do with Jesus, and then it puts, it's
I
a whole
agree.
cycle.
It's madness. Because people are stupid. In general, we are all stupid, right? That's why we need the Lord. Okay. We're running out of time, unfortunately. Any other sign that you can think of, as we're beginning to close here, that we should be looking forward? We've already talked about the temple, great falling away, as it was in the days of Noah, and everything that involves. Anything else for which we should be looking?
Earthquakes in very
Son of
strange
perdition.
places.
Oh, no. Okay. Oh, we didn't even talk about that yet. Okay, so Yeshua said, what about that, Joshua? Talk to me.
There will be earthquakes in diverse and unusual places.
What does that mean?
Earthquakes where you would not expect earthquakes to be.
I don't want to sound stupid here, but what do you mean by earthquake?
That's a really dumb sign.
Well, isn't there going to be like a...
Well,
Well, all floating on magma, and he says
Yeah, but we can predict where earthquakes going to
we
be.
can predict to an
There's going to be
earthquake.
wars and
You know what I mean, Ben?
wars.
We
There's
know
gonna
what
be,
we know where
like,
earthquakes are.
Yeah.
Okay, Joshua, where do you get this? Let's look at the scripture.
I look at that. Yep.
Calm
It
down.
makes no sense.
Calm down.
I'm
Calm
not
down.
upset. It's just
All right.
doesn't make any
Okay.
logical sense.
And so where does it say that?
Matthew 24:7.
Let's go there. Matthew 24:7. We're back to the great Olivet prophecy, right? You can also find it in Luke. You can also find it in Mark. Matthew 24:7. Yeshua is speaking, right? And really, in order to understand what he's saying here in verse 7, we have to ask what is being asked, right? What does it say in verse 3?
How
Matthew
we-
24.
How will we know? What is the sign of your coming and the sign of the end of the age?
Okay, so when Yeshua was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the Talmudim, the disciples, came near to him by himself, saying, "Tell us, when shall these things be?" Well, what things?
The signs of the end of age.
Verse 2. Yeshua said, "Do you not see all these things?" Well, what things? Verse 1. And having gone forth, Yeshua departed from the temple, and his Talmudim came near to show him the buildings of the temple. Remember this, the temple at that time was the largest man-made structure on earth. It was glorious. It outshone any of the temples of Central America or the Orient or even Rome itself. Herod's temple was the thing. And the disciple was like, "Whoa, look at this. It's amazing. It's beautiful." And it hadn't even been finished by that point yet. They were still working on it. Yeshua said to them, "Do you not see all these? Truly I say to you, there may not be left here one stone upon another stone that will not be thrown down." Well, that's a shocking thing to say.
That also proves that the temple is going to be destroyed.
And it was.
Yes.
Yeshua was right. 40 years after his resurrection, right?
Right.
And when he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came in to him saying, "When? When's this going to happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the full end of the age?" So they wanted to know a few things here. Why did they ask what will be the sign of your coming if he was already with them?
They knew he was going to come again.
They knew he had to come again. Is it prophesied anywhere in the Old Testament that there would be an arrival of essentially God, the Messiah, then there will be a period of essentially no God, obviously he would be there, but a period of great immorality or amorality, and then that Israel would return to him.
And Daniel, the weeks, when he
Okay,
talks
we
about
have
the
70 weeks,
yeah.
right? There's also prophecy in one of the minor prophets that says that for many years Israel will be without king or priest or holy place, right? And then Israel shall return back to God and God will return to them, and I'm paraphrasing. So it is prophesied. The disciples knew this. They had been raised with the Torah and the Tanakh. And they asked him then, it's important to know what's being asked, when will the temple be destroyed? What will be the sign of your coming and of the full or complete end of the age? And Yeshua begins. What does he say, Joshua?
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate here. Has a nation always been rising against nation? And haven't people always been rising against people?
Well, technically, nation just means ethnicity here.
Right, so people have always been doing this since Cain and Abel. And haven't there always been famines and pestilence and earthquake? So what makes us different?
In diverse places.
What does that mean?
In new places, in strange places, unpredictable places.
Okay, so we expect there to be a famine in the Sahara Desert. We expect there to be a famine in central Mongolia, I guess. It's pretty dry high up there. Do we expect there to be a famine in Jerusalem?
No.
No, not normally, not unless it's being attacked. Do we expect there to be a famine in Central Europe, where it's so rich and lush and beautiful? Do we expect there to be a famine in the United States? No. But suddenly we would see these things, right? What is Yeshua saying here overall? If we had to take a step back and look at Matthew 24:7, what do we look for?
Great disaster across the entire world.
Well, all of these things.
Struggle.
We have to look at all these things.
Okay.
That not the normal nation rising against nation, and not the normal kingdom versus kingdom.
Right.
But you will also have those things plus famines, pestilence, which is probably what causes
So
those
will all
things,
these things happen
and
at the same time?
earthquakes.
It sounds like a bad time.
So we're looking at then a massive breakdown in order, right? We're looking at a breakdown in natural order. We're looking at a breakdown in social order as well. Famines, things like that. What about earthquakes? Earthquakes in places you would not expect earthquakes.
Like under the sea.
Well, so that's where Sebastian was. No.
But I don't know how that
The,
could be, since the earthquakes can only happen in the fault lines now. And we know all the
Can
fault
they
lines.
only happen at fault lines? Is there a fault
Yeah.
line in the middle of Oklahoma?
There are.
No, wait, what? And how was the earthquakes in Oklahoma?
We don't know.
What?
Yeah.
You might want to think about how.
They're blaming fracking.
No,
The earthquakes that we felt in Oklahoma while we lived there came far deeper than the fracking levels. So
That's not good.
yeah, there is a major fault line going along the Mississippi River. Yes, I was right about that. Near Memphis, largest earthquake I believe in human history recorded. Right, happened in Missouri.
So there'll be
100 years ago.
there will be earthquakes would normally not be able to happen.
just
Correct.
like, wait, looking at me.
Oh, I thought I don't know.
Joe, largest earthquake ever. Go.
Yeah.
But also
Is that San
too,
Francisco?
a lot of times
This is bigger than San Francisco.
there could be
It
an
made the Mississippi run backwards. Or flow backwards. Go ahead.
This is
the
bigger than anything we've
the
seen.
crazy thing too about these natural things is something could happen in Denver, and it could, like, there was a great earthquake in California, and my brother lived north of, way north up, and they felt it.
Uh-huh.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that it starts in, like, say, Oklahoma, but it could be the after effect of something starting in, like, Missouri or wherever there is a fault line for those earthquakes in diverse places. Because I would have never thought for anything that there was earthquakes in Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, I know.
I mean, who would think that? You're in the middle of this huge landmass.
The problem with I don't really like that sign because it's like we're mantle sheets on top of
No, but this-
magma. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah, but like-
theoretically, anywhere could have an earthquake.
He's right.
And how
That's
far
what-
have we ever gone down?
No, he's right.
I think the farthest we've ever gone was the super borehole was about, I don't know, was it 100 miles? I don't know.
It wasn't quite 100 miles.
It's not
No,
deep.
it was like 20.
We barely even scratched the surface of the.
of the
So
earth, yeah.
the question would be: are our fault lines on top of other fault lines,
Maybe.
or are those fault lines on top of? I mean,
22
there
miles.
has to be a protective coating around the magma,
Right.
but obviously not too good of a show
Right.
because it comes up. So
So we
Who
know that
knows?
we're living on a crust, like a raft on an ocean, right? That's the crust of the earth. And we know it's floating on a massive thick sea of magma. Liquid hot magma has about the same consistency as water. So we are literally rafts floating here. Technically, there could be an earthquake anywhere. So Yeshua is not saying that it would be possible there would be earthquakes in unusual places. He's saying there will be earthquakes in unusual and unexpected places. So
But it doesn't mean it's the borehole.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
It's just one
I'm
of
just
the
saying
things.
it's one of the things he commanded us to look
Now,
for.
I felt often in weird places and a lot of plagues and a lot of famines in strange places.
Correct. We have to look at everything, and that was my question. Right.
Why
If not
did
having a
God?
famine, if there's a
Why
plague
did,
in
God,
Japan.
why did God make us with magma in the middle? I mean, why couldn't He just make us a solid rock?
It's gravity.
I mean, he could have made us any way he wished.
But gravity,
still have an intelligent
God could have
brain.
done gravity without,
Okay. Mom.
right? I mean, we
Yeah.
don't need magma for gravity.
No,
It
but
contributes to the
It's
heat.
spinning or
It contributes
whatever.
to the heat of the
compression,
planet.
gravity compression creates heat, especially with like matter. It melts it and it pressurized so hard down there that it melts everything.
Just like there's a water cycle that we learned in school, the rain comes,
Oh, right.
hits the mountains, that becomes rivers that feed in the sea, and the sea evaporates, goes up around. So there's also a geologic cycle. And this liquid hot magma on which we're floating is part of that geological cycle that heats up and then it goes to the top and then it cools and comes back down again. It keeps the earth, can I say fresh? Keeps the minerals and things where they need to be.
Subway.
Yeah, exactly. Now, of course, the antediluvian earth was not exactly like the earth we see today. It was radically different in many ways. There was massive tension in the seabeds and things like that. But there's a purpose for it, for this cycle that God made. There can be earthquakes anywhere. There can be pestilences anywhere. What's a pestilence?
Plague.
Disease.
Plague, disease. It can be like a pestilence of locusts, if you want to get biblical. It could be a pestilence of a mutated virus or bacteria or fungus, things of that nature. But it's pestilence. They could occur anywhere. All Yeshua is saying here is they will. It's not just that you see famine in Ethiopia, which is a horrible thing. Oh, they're having that again, by the way. Do you guys know that? There's a massive famine hitting Ethiopia right now.
Oh no, again?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Uh-oh.
We are the world. It's not just that there'll be famine in Ethiopia like you would expect, unfortunately. It's that there will be massive famines globally, massive pestilences globally, massive earthquakes globally, where you wouldn't expect it. This is one of the things to look for.
And do they all have to happen at the same time?
He doesn't necessarily say that. Now, Paul tells us later, and actually Yeshua alludes to it later in this passage, it'll be like a woman in labor. What does that mean?
So they'll just build upon each other.
Walls and walls and walls.
Yeah. It's going to be a little sporadic and then it'll stop. But a little more sporadic and it'll stop. And it'll get worse and worse and closer and closer and closer until
I was about to say, what if there's
the baby's born.
what if there are earthquakes in Australia, and like there's plagues and there's even an Antichrist-like figure, but there's no temple.
You gotta have everything. He commanded us to watch, right? I mean, that's sort of like what we had in World War II. There were pestilences, famines, don't know about earthquakes, and there was an Antichrist-like figure, but there was no temple, and there were no earthquakes, and there was no great falling away. You have to have everything, every piece, in order for a person to look back and say, "Hey, wait a second, there's something going on here. This is it."
That's why I'm not afraid of Jared Kushner. No, I'm just kidding.
He lives on 666 Street.
Yeah, in New York City, right? With that, we have gone over. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I apologize for going over a little bit. I wanted this to be the last one, but there's still more things God commands us to look for. So let's talk about that again next week. And God willing, we'll wrap this up, yes? Any final thoughts or questions or conclusions as we end?
I read Revelation in one night, just a fun little fact.
I should bring it on.
Yeah, I did that when I was young. Yeah, bring it on.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Let's go.
Then
Nothing? Okay. Well, thank you for your patience and for your paying attention. I appreciate that. Thank you online for joining us. It is a blessing as always, and God willing, by next week we'll have everything fixed so you can see on your screen all the scriptures that we're looking at, etc. Meanwhile, we say Shabbat Shalom, yes?
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Peace and rest to you on this glorious day, because every Shabbos is a gift. And Shavua Tov, which means...
Have a
a
good
good
week.
week.
So, starting tonight, have a good week. I hope that you guys do. Hope you all do as well. And Joshua, if you would get ready to turn us off. As always, please don't forget to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, yes? And for the salvation of the Jewish people. Shalom.